Hi, welcome to Code with Z. In today's video, we gotta do a bunch of jumps because that's what LeetCode 55 jump game is asking us to do. Now, I want you to know that I'll explain and visualize everything in the coming slides, but for the sake of reading the question, let's see what the question is actually asking us for. So as you can see, we're given an integer array called nums. Duh, and we're initially positioned at the first index of that array. Each element in the array represents the maximum jump at our current position, and we gotta return true if we can actually reach the last index or false if we can't. Now, what does this even mean? Well, we're given this example here that's gonna make things more clear, but we have it in the slides, so let's check it out there. Alrighty, so this is the array that was given to us, and the question tells us that this is gonna be our starting point, the first index. This number 2 here represents the maximum jumps that we can make. This means we can make one jump and move to this one, or we can make 2 jumps and move to this position here. And based on this logic, we're gonna make a jump, then decide based on the next number what other jumping opportunities we have. For example, if we go from 2 to 3, that means we can have a maximum jump of 3 from this position. But if we jump from 2 to 1, that means we can have a maximum jump of 1 from this position. And in this question, we gotta see if we can actually jump from the first index all the way to the last index. If we can, we're gonna return true. If we can't, we're gonna return false. So first, let me bring this here. Now I'll explain you the structure of our simple algorithm, and then I'll visualize everything so you can see how things work with your own eyes. The first thing that we need to have is gonna be a variable called maxReach. And as the name suggests, this is gonna be telling us the maximum index that we can reach. So basically our jump. This is gonna be the only thing that we need, and we need to loop through our array to check these values one by one, right? So we're gonna have a loop. This is gonna be representing a loop, and it's gonna be a for loop, so it's gonna have a variable, for example, called I, and I is gonna get incremented on each round. Inside of our for loop, we're gonna have a simple if statement. We're gonna say if I is greater than maxReach, we want to return false. Now, what does this mean? So in this loop, we're going to be looping through this array here, right? We're going to say if we reach a position where our I is greater than the maximum index that we can reach, that means we were not able to reach the end of our array based on the numbers that we were given here. So clearly we're standing in a position that we would not be able to reach if we follow the rules of our question, so we're gonna return false. And on each round, we're gonna calculate our maxReach. We're gonna say our maxReach is gonna be equal to the maximum value between maxReach and I plus nums at the index of I. Don't worry, you're gonna see how this works in the visualization, but this is basically telling us, for example, if we start from this position, the maximum jump that we can make is gonna be till this position here. This is literally that. And this is gonna be everything that we need inside of our loop. If we didn't actually return false here, that means we can actually reach the end of our array, so we're gonna return true, like so. Now, let's start the visualization. As you can see, our I is gonna be equal to 0 in the beginning, and we're currently in the first round of our loop. And nums of I is gonna be pointing to this number here because I is equal to 0, and nums of 0 is gonna be this number at the index of 0. So we're gonna say if I, which is currently 0, is greater than maxReach, which is also 0 because we're in the first round, return false. Well, this is not going to be a true statement, so we're going to ignore it, and we're going to calculate our maxReach. We're going to say maxReach is equal to max between maxReach, which is 0, and I plus nums of I. Well, I is 0, and nums of I is 2, like so. And we're going to choose the maximum value between these two, and that's going to be 2, so now maxReach is equal to 2. And this literally represents the maximum jump that we can have, because we said the maximum jump from this position is going to be this position. Well, would you look at that? The index of this position is 2. So this is what maxReach is actually representing. Now we're gonna reach the end of this round, and we're gonna move on to the next round. Now our I is gonna be equal to 1. We're in the second round of our loop, and nums of I is gonna be pointing to this number here. We're gonna say if I, which is 1, is greater than maxReach, which is 2, do the following. Well, it's not, so we're gonna ignore it, and we're gonna calculate our maxReach. We're gonna say maxReach is equal to the maximum value between maxReach or I plus nums of I. Well, maxReach is 2, and I is 1, and nums of I is 3. So this is gonna give us 4. Between 2 and 4, 4 is greater, so maxReach is gonna be equal to 4. And if you check, the maximum jump that we can have from this position is gonna be 3, right? So if we make 3 jumps, 1, 2, 3, we're gonna reach this position, and the index of this position is 4. That's why maxReach is equal to 4. And then we're gonna reach the end of this round, and we're gonna move on to the next round. In the next round, our I is gonna be equal to 2, and we're gonna be pointing to this number here. We're gonna check our logic here. We're gonna say if I, which is 2, is greater than maxReach, which is 4, do the following. It's not, so we're gonna calculate our maxReach. We're gonna say maxReach is equal to maximum value between maxReach, which is 4, and I plus nums of I. Well, I is 2, and nums of I is 1. That's going to give us 3. Between 4 and 3, we're going to pick 4. So max reach is going to stay as 4. And then we're going to move on to the last round. Now I is 3 and it's going to be pointing to this number here. We're going to check this if statement. We're going to say if I, which is 3, is greater than max reach, which is 4. This is not going to be a correct statement. So we're going to ignore and we're going to calculate our max reach. We're going to pick the maximum value between max reach, which is 4, and I plus nums of I. That means 3 plus 1. That's going to give us 4. So max reach is going to stay as 4. And then we're going to enter the last round in our loop. In this round, our I is going to be equal to 4 and it's going to be pointing to this number here. We're going to check our logic. We're going to say if I is greater than max reach, meaning if 4 is greater than 4, which is not, do the following because this is not going to be true. So we're going to ignore this line and we're going to calculate our max reach again. We're going to say max reach is equal to the maximum value between max reach, which is 4, and I plus nums of I. Well, I is 4 and nums of I is also 4. That's going to give us 8. We're going to pick the maximum value between 4 and 8. That's going to be 8. And now max reach is equal to 8. And we're going to be done with the loop because that was the last number inside of our array. And we're going to return true. Now, technically, we could say if max reach is equal to the index of the last element, just return true. Because from the moment when max reach became 4, we would know that we would actually reach the end because the index of the last element is gonna be 4. So we could technically have that in our code, but I wanted our code to be simple, so I didn't add it here. Now let's code this in the simplest way possible. Alrighty, so the first thing that we need to have, just like we saw in the slides, we need to define our max reach variable, and this is going to be basically equal to 0. And then we're going to have our for loop. We're going to say for let I being equal to 0. We want to keep on looping as long as I is smaller than nums.length, and we want to increment I on each round like so. Here we're going to say if I, just like we saw on the slides, is greater than max reach, return false. And below this if statement, we're going to calculate our max reach on each round. We're going to say max reach is equal to math.maximum between max reach itself and I plus nums of I. And if we didn't actually return false in our loop, we're gonna return true. Simple as that. Now let's run it and see if we're gonna get accepted. Moment of truth. And yep, as you can see, we're passing both of the cases. Let's see if we're gonna pass all of them. So let's submit it. Drum roll, please. I'm just kidding. Let's see. And yep, we got accepted. That's awesome. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and keep on coding.